Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, August 27th, 2022. It's been another great week of shows with great topics and, of course, great guests. We kicked off the week with a look at how employers can help employees build their emergency savings. Let's take a look.
It's interesting. Myself and Devin Miller and Bassam Saliba, the three of us about 2 years ago, started a company called Secure Save. You can all look it up at securesave.com. And we all talked about, this was in the pandemic stage, what does the world need right now that they don't have? And the answer came up to that question as they need an emergency savings account. Because what is the goal of money? The goal of money is for you to be secure. What makes you secure is savings. Henceforth, the name Secure Save. And we talked about that. And the one question they kept asking me, if it's so simple and that's all people need, why don't they do it? And they don't do it because it's not automated for them. And so when you get a paycheck, what you bring home is what you spend. So we thought, why not create an employer-matched emergency savings plan, an emergency savings account for employees, where the employer automatically helps the employees save money through payroll deductions that go right into an emergency savings account for the employee, and where the employer matches it. Now, many of our employees, maybe they only contribute $25 a paycheck. The employer sometimes matches $3 a paycheck. That's a 12% return on their money, Jeffrey. No cost to the employee whatsoever. The employee can get the money anytime they want. It's an out-of-plan benefit. It's not something like a 401k that you got to go to your human resource person. No, this is your money. We have an incredible app where if you want money, you just push a button on the app. You can follow how much you have in there. And we keep reminding you, if you want to take money out, is this for emergencies? Because this is really for an emergency savings account. You know, we have found that almost 60%, 55 to 60% of the companies that have signed up with us, when we send out the email to everybody, there's a 55 to 60% adoption rate. And hardly anybody over the past year or so has taken money out. People love it, and they're watching their money grow and grow and grow. That's what Secure Save is. So for all of you listening to this right now, if you have an employer or you are an employer, right, and you want to do this with your employee, all you have to do is go to securesave.com and sign up there. So, you know, recently, Jeffrey, there has been bipartisan legislation introduced where they want to make it so that employers get to do this automatically for their employees. And it's called the Emergency Savings Account Act of 2022. And, you know, if you want to let your congressman know that this is something that you really want to do, go to supportemergencysavings.com. And there's a petition there. You should sign it. You know, just sign up for this, because all of you should want your employers to help you save money and match it for you in an emergency savings account. So that's what I really want to do. I want to change America so that nobody knows what it's like, you know, to have debt. We eradicate debt and we have money in savings, and therefore we all feel more secure. But, you know, besides just savings, it's really important that you know all the things that you need to know. You need to know why, in my opinion anyway, you should have a Roth retirement account, whether it's a Roth 401k, TSP, you know, 403b, or a Roth IRA if you qualify, more than any traditional retirement account out there pre-tax. I would say forget about the tax write-offs now and go after tax. And there's so many podcasts on my Women in Money podcast that explain that, especially with the possible changes in inherited IRAs, where people have been already taking required minimum distributions and then they leave it to somebody, you better know all the rules. You better know that you need a will and a living revocable trust, an advance directive, and a durable power of attorney for healthcare. You better have those must-have documents in order. You better know about how to take title to your home. There's so many things that you need to know about besides just emergency savings, which is really, Jeffrey, why you and me, right, we're doing such an incredible job in trying to educate everybody on what they need to know, whether they want to know it or not.
Next up, inflation impacts public pensions too. Let's take a look.
You're right. We're all experiencing inflation, and inflation is gradually feeding into all aspects of the economy. That includes pension systems. Pension systems on the public sector side for state and local governments in the US experience inflation in a number of different ways. Probably the way that we think of most commonly is through COLA mechanisms, automatic cost of living adjustments. When we are seeing headline inflation in the 8 and 9% range, though, that's not necessarily feeding into pensions to the same degree via their COLA mechanisms. For the most part, U.S. state and local pensions have COLA caps in the 2 to 3% range per year. So retirees in those plans may not be seeing the dollar value of their benefits rising to the same degree as they're experiencing price inflation. Conceptually, there are many overlaps between what Social Security does and what public pensions do. However, at least on the state and local pension side, virtually all plans have a cap. Many have no COLA at all, though, and that's important to keep in mind. So, for example, the state of New Jersey, if you're a retiree for the state of New Jersey, there's no COLA until those pension systems reach a certain funded ratio, and that's years away. So, so there's no single way that you can say that inflation affects a specific plan, because every one of those plans is determining its method of preserving, the buying power of retirees differently. I think many of us remember and certainly watched in the Great Recession a little over a decade ago, public pension plans really suffered a significant asset drop. And the reality was many didn't recover after that in a manner that I think they had recovered from prior recessions. And part of that, the reasons behind that are complicated, but some of it was related to benefit increases prior to the Great Recession. Some of it was related simply to the aging of the population overall and the growth of retiree numbers drawing benefits out of the plans. So I think we viewed pensions as being stable going into the pandemic, but not necessarily being recovered. Another key detail, though, is that plans were only very gradually shifting their own assumption to reflect asset growth that I think most economists would agree is simply going to be slower going forward as the population ages and as productivity falls. Fitch lowered its expectation for what pension assets could really grow at. We view pensions as likely to grow only at about 6% a year over time, and recognize that within that there's a lot of volatility as well that pensions have to absorb. So pensions were stable going into the pandemic. They experienced the same gigantic decline that markets saw in that spring of 2020, followed by the equally surprising surge in asset values in 2021. And then once again in 2022, I think we're seeing exactly what we expected, which is challenging asset conditions for pensions, just like for everyone with a 401k plan. So
Yeah.
They've been on a roller coaster. That being said, they're relatively stable over time at this moment. On a note of caution, I'm not a monetary policy expert,
Okay,
but
me neither.
to the extent that that future increases in interest rates by the Fed affects the asset values of what pensions hold, that's going to at least be a short-term negative for pensions. They'll see asset values decline. Their funded ratios will fall with that. Granted, there's an actuarial process of cushioning that decline, but ultimately what will happen is the contributions from governments, state and local governments, will have to go up. That is a dynamic that is built into pensions, the goal of which is ultimately to cushion the impact on, budget makers and taxpayers ultimately. But to the extent that the Federal Reserve's actions result in more stock market pain, more pain in general on the asset side, that will be felt by pensions in the form of lower funding.
Well, we're halfway through a look at our best segments for the week. When we come back, a look at the other half. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. Inflation also impacts returning college students. We've got some tips. Let's take a look.
Oh, no, it's very much the latter. They have a large room to grow and they know it. I will say that students that I teach, there's a spectrum. You've got some students who had the cultural capital. They had parents who educated them when it comes to banking and credit and so on. And then you have others, especially some of our first generation students who don't have that cultural capital. So they're coming from a very different extreme when it comes to financial knowledge. But the problem is that they're all facing similar financial decisions. And so that just really lends to that stress. So, when it comes to how do I get from where I'm at to a place of what's called financial well-being, it all starts with money education. They need to be formally educated about money to learn these things so that when they come across these financial decisions that are plaguing them, they can maybe not make the best decision, but at least a better decision. And then that in turn will slowly lead to a better financial situation. And what you and I probably know that to be is wealth. How do they aggregate wealth? And they do that by, one, budgeting and growing that net income and then applying it to growing wealth. But it all starts with having the knowledge to make the right decisions as they're making them every day, day in and day out through their college career. We talk about just financial planning in particular. The expectation is that before you give specific advice to someone that their personal circumstances. That's just being someone who's taking their actual well-being into account. So when I advise students or when I'm educating them in the classroom, I am speaking broadly. I am trying to speak to the middle. So when we talk about what you said, meme stocks, you're right. They have heard of that. Some of them participated in it and they understand that that's risky business. In some cases, it's speculation. And so we discuss what is speculation versus what is actual investing, and understanding the financials behind a company. Why are you investing them? And then, hopefully holding on to, one of Warren Buffett's recommendations, hold for the long term, not thinking about this as just day trading, especially from a student's perspective when they don't have the liquidity you and I have typically. They don't have our wealth to fall back on when that stock fails. So I come from a conservative perspective and educating them when it comes to meme stocks. The same thing goes for cryptocurrency. You're right. It has been around. I personally think it's probably here to stay. But at the same time, these students are in a position where, $500 could make or break if they're able to finish their college careers. And so I explained to them, understand that is risky. And so, perhaps what you should be focusing on instead is first an emergency fund. And any money that you put in, whether it's a meme stock or it's crypto, et cetera, should be money that you don't need to finish college, that you don't need for tomorrow's rent, because otherwise that will upend your life. So I'm not saying don't go invest, and I'm not saying don't invest in cryptocurrency. I am saying treat that as one of your more high-risk categories and make sure that you have liquidity. Make sure that you're not affording these high-risk investments by leaning on debt, which some do. Some consider the idea of let's take out a bunch of debt in order to go invest it. Well, as you and I both know, that debt comes with an interest rate. It comes with some fees, et cetera, attached that are guaranteed. You must pay them. That investment doesn't guarantee anything. A lot of times college students think there's nothing they can do. And there's action you can take. And one of the first steps is to start budgeting. And that, to a lot of students, that's this word. They don't want to discuss it. They don't know what it means. Very simply, you need to know where your money's coming from, your income, and where it's going, your expenses. Make a plan for that in the future so that you can grow that net income, your savings each month, and then apply it to growing assets, the things you own, and paying off your debts. That therefore is growing your wealth. So budgeting is the key to growing wealth in my eyes. And there's a lot of ways to do it. I'll hop straight to the most popular one, and that is online budgeting platforms like Mint.com, Personal Capital, and then also Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar. I have many friends who have used it, many colleagues who have used one of those platforms. They're all very biased on which one is the best. So I suggest to my students, give them all a shot, but it takes the brunt of the weight, the workload of budgeting away from you. But at the same time, it allows you to access your budgeting information on the go, via the mobile app while you're out, while you're making those financial decisions. But I think that's step one. Another one is you referred to it already, Jeffrey, but you mentioned the fact that interest rates are on the rise. So I do think this is a good time for our students to be visiting bankrate.com. It's a great website to cross-reference, cross-compare different bank accounts. What are they offering in terms of interest? But at the same time, what fees are they charging? Now, from a student's perspective, I try to emphasize the fact that you should be looking at fees more than interest, because the majority of college students do not have large bank account balances. No matter what the rate is, they will not be earning that much interest. But a single fee, 2-3 fees can wipe out a whole year's worth of interest. So I'd be shopping as a student based upon fees first, interest second. As they start earning more money and start having greater bank account balances, I'd flip that. But that would be step two. And then, no one wants to talk about this one. This is a non-starter on financial advising with college students. But, when I bring this up, they shut down. But I would get a roommate. When, we talk about the rising costs of housing, and that representing, at least here at A&M, maybe up to 20% of the entire cost of going to school is just housing. If you can get a roommate, you could save thousands of dollars in a single year. So I think it's too big of a component of the cost of going to college to just write it off and say, nope, I want my own 2-bedroom apartment, et cetera, 1-bedroom apartment. I would find a roommate. So when it comes to textbooks, a lot of times first, before you buy textbooks, I would make sure that your faculty member for the class you're taking isn't assigning an open educational resource. So at Texas A&M, we have open educational resources, which might serve what you need for a course without you buying the textbook. At the same time, if you do need a book, I would consider renting virtually. When you rent virtually, quite often, you're getting access to that textbook for only a few months for the course of the semester, but you might end up paying $40 instead of buying a book for $150, $200. And so that's a huge amount of savings. And then I would look and find on your campus, is there any campus programming to support getting free textbooks? Here at Texas A&M, military affiliated students can access free textbooks through our Aggie Shields Lending Library, which is a part of our Veteran Resource and Support Center. There might be something like that on your campus, and it could save you thousands of dollars over the course of your college career.
And finally, creativity doesn't stop at any age. Let's take a look.
It is and it isn't. It's really almost every state and territory in the United States has a state agency for the arts or a state arts council. This, Jeffrey, really came out of when the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities were created in 1965. The feds needed state and local partners to grant federal funds so that federal funds for arts and humanities could get into the states and to local communities. So a lot of state arts agencies started popping up in the late 60s and around then. And then the Division of the Arts was created by the Delaware legislature in 1989. So our main function is to grant out federal and state funds for arts and culture programs throughout the state of Delaware. We fund nonprofit arts and culture organizations. We fund nonprofit organizations that offer arts programming to their community members. And we also fund artists and creative entrepreneurs in the state of Delaware. Our money goes all the way up and down the state. It reaches, every county and many of the cities in Delaware. And then it's a great mission. No, it's great. And then the division also, aside from our granting, we put on programs and events of our own, and we provide technical support to the arts and culture sector. So we sponsor the Poetry Out Loud, which is a national competition for high school students in spoken word poetry. We manage the state competition, and then each year Delaware sends a student to the national competition. We have our website called DelawareScene.com. It's an amazing arts and culture calendar at everyone's fingertips. You can see what's going on any given day in any given place in the state, so that you are never bored. And so there's, that's just a couple of examples of things we do outside of granting. Delaware is booming in terms of a destination for retirement. All of us that live in the state know there's been an incredible amount of development, especially in Kent and Sussex counties. And we're just seeing a huge influx of 55 plus residents moving to Delaware and making this their home, sort of as they retire and post-retirement. And, we really have to understand that even though people retire and even though we all age, we still have so much to offer in terms of our creativity and our creative lives. Of course, a lot of us want to remain patrons of the arts and go to arts events, but I think it's important for us to also explore our own individual creativity. Everyone has an artist in them, and this program is designed to bring that out in people with an end goal of really creating connections with other people, improving our overall health, especially our mental health and our social well-being. And it's really geared to show our 55 plus adults in Delaware that it's never too late to learn something new or pick up a new skill. And some of these folks that are participating in this program, it's an in-depth program, and they take this on and continue with their learning. And honestly, I can see this generating a whole bunch of new creative entrepreneurs who are establishing second careers in the arts. And that is just so exciting for us at the division. And there is so much, work and study going on nationally between the links of arts engagement and our mental health and our social and emotional well-being. So Lifetime Arts, who is a national leader in creative aging, has helped us develop this program and train our teaching artists. And what we're seeing is, throughout the course of these 8-week programs, folks are coming in and building lasting bonds and friendships with their fellow learners in their classes. They're building bonds with the artists that are teaching the courses because they are so, intensive and spread out over 8 weeks. It really gives folks an opportunity to become social and make new friends. And what our librarians and teaching artists were witnessing is that these folks were going out and getting coffee or drinks afterwards. Some of them are now going on vacation together over the summer. So, aside from learning a whole new skill set in the arts, a lot of these participants have made new friends for a lifetime that have a similar interest and something that they can bond over. And I think coming out of 2 years plus of practical isolation, this is so critical for our mental health and our social well-being. I think it's also important. There is something about, keeping our motor skills, keeping our hand-eye coordination, and the arts, whether you're doing visual arts or performing arts, we offer dance, we offer theater. It's really keeping our bodies moving and keeping our minds sharp.
Well, certainly great segments. I want to thank all of our wonderful contributors this week. And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, entertainment, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? We'll visit our website and, of course, our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, and financial services as we take a look and analyze all the top news for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.